All right, guys, what's up? It's Jack, and welcome back to another movie comm. So today we're going to be watching Predator, the original Predator that came out in 1987 with Arnold. So for those of you guys that want to follow along, I'm watching this on HBO Max, and I am paused at the 9-second mark where the 20th Century Fox logo is still going. Um, so yeah, if you want to follow along, get ready and press play in three, two, one. Press play. So Um, one of the things that I find very fascinating about this movie, besides the obvious, is the fact that, well, there has been no other Predator movie to surpass this, right? And this was made back in 1987, which is absolutely incredible when you come to think about it. So, uh, I am just fascinated with what they were able to do with this film. And actually, the Predator's look actually was inspired by James Cameron. I guess the director was having a discussion with him about it, and he's like, you know what, I really would like to see something cool with mandibles, and that's how Stan Winston and the crew kind of came up with everything. So, and rest his soul, to Stan Winston as well. He's made so many. Um, he's responsible for creating and making so many of the puppets and stuff that we've seen to this day, and it's absolutely incredible what that man has done. Is you see right here in the space, you see the ship, and the thing is, you don't know what this is. This film, like, obviously it's, it's an alien, but at the same time you don't know too much. This film really copies a lot from Jaws in terms of you don't get to see the villain up until a certain point of the film, and when you do see the villain before you get to the climax of the film, it's given to you in small pieces, but it keeps you watching, keeps you intrigued. You start to wonder, like, what is this creature? What's going on here, right? And of course, you get the helicopter coming in, and of course, Arnold and his crew are basically being transported here to where we are here, and basically, uh, by the way, fun fact: Jesse Ventura was actually a Navy SEAL. So he obviously didn't have to go through any of the prep work that the other guys were going through in order to get, prepared for everything, because the man is a is a Navy SEAL. He's gone through buds and all that kind of stuff. The guy was a UDT. So, and pretty badass. And you see them kind of exiting the helicopter over here with their civilian clothing. And of course, Arnold is still in the back, of course, with his cigar. Signature cigar, by the way, because, well, he pretty much does that in every film. Like, whether it's behind the scenes or during the film, you know, all about cigars, man. And a really cool group of guys. Really good group of guys. When you consider the casting of the film. It's not like they were all stars or something like that, but they all fit into their roles very, very well. And actually, Arnold had the team working out, like everybody was prepping before filming started. So Arnold and the crew were working out like beforehand. Carl Weathers, of course, the man who is famously known for Apollo Creed as well, or Chubbs if you're an Adam Sandler fan and you like Happy Gilmore. um, but more than anything, Apollo Creed, I would probably say, is in this film, and he's obviously in terrific shape as always. So, you pretty much have a pretty good crew here in your hands. And Arnold, at this point, this was, I believe, about 3 years after the first Terminator film, and he started basically blowing up at this. Being who he is with his charisma is definitely, I'm sure when this movie came out and people saw it in the theaters, which was 3 years after I was born, when people saw this in theaters, I'm pretty sure they had a great time watching it. I'm sure it was one of those pleasure films to watch, and like I said, this film, in terms of Predator, it has yet to be surpassed. And I'm one of the people that actually like Predator 2, but not as much as this one. And ever since then, they've been trying to recapture it, and they kind of went in the right direction with Predators, but they couldn't quite stick the landing, in my opinion. So Predators was good, but um, not nearly as good as this one. Uh, and of course, you get the iconic scene right here with Carl Weathers and Arnold slapping hands, bam. And yeah. What's the matter? CIA got you pushing too many pencils. And I'm wondering if this was actually, if they actually like, whether they faked, whether they actually competed or not to try to best each other in a arm wrestling contest. So anyway, uh, so yeah, I mean, really good. You guys obviously, you could tell that these two already have a past in this story. Um, and Carl Weathers was actually, in my opinion, perfectly cast for the film because he's got the physicality part. And of course, Arnold over here says that they're a rescue team and they're not assassins. So at this point, this mission is going to be different when you look at the general and you look at, you know. So basically, at this point, they're supposed to, you know, there's a few, there's a a few other guys that are, I guess they're going to get, they've been captured and they're going to get squeezed, but it kind of ends up being a little bit different, as you'll see. And despite the fact that these two have a past, um, the thing is, even the general is ordered to have Carl Weathers come with Arnold on this mission, even though he doesn't want it because, you know, he doesn't prefer it. He doesn't. Team goes in with the team, and basically things change from there. And then you got the guys going in through a helicopter. So, and again, the tone for this film is very very jungle and militaristic, but it's definitely done right. And those guys were out there, and it was an experience. So, and again, for Jesse Ventura, it was just all too familiar and a breeze, probably, like everything, because again, the man had gone through SEAL training, and there's no tougher training in the world to go through. So, and then you get to see a little bit of the other crew, like Shane Black over here, and some of the other guys. So, and these guys are obviously guys that have been working together for a long time, so that's another thing. So, and at the end of the day, that's what they are, is that they're a rescue team. And at this point, there's no backup for this mission. So, you know, it's like once you cross that border, you know, that's it, you're on your own. And Arnold's character, Dutch, loves it. And Jesse Ventura's character, of course, is basically trying to offer everybody tobacco, and nobody wants it. He's got a couple of funny, colorful words. Billy's putting on his war paint. Very serious character, by the way. So, and then you've got Shane Black's character, who's like saying all these jokes, you know, a little bit of personality, and he's like, "Yeah, I'd like a little pussy." It's like, "Yeah, I'd like one too. Mine's as big as a house." Oh man. So yeah. So again, a little bit of personality among the team before they go into their mission. But nobody wants any tobacco. And then obviously this stuff will turn you into a sexual tyrannosaurus, just like me. And yeah, got Bill Duke over there shaving, you know, making sure he's all set for the mission. And of course, you got Blaine, you know, Jesse Ventura's character that basically fits on Carl Weathers' boots. See if he's gonna do anything. He's smiling. Like, that's a real nasty habit you got there. starts laughing. And the alarm goes off, and now it's time to rock and roll. Music comes off. Now the game's on. So, as far as the team's concerned, they're supposed to go down there and rescue a few pals that are basically being captured. You know, because basically that's what they do. They're a team they're a rescue team. So, and apparently, um, Carl Weathers' character has been out of the game for a while. Dylan been out of it for a while, but sent in for this specific mission because he works for some other people that we'll find out a little bit later. Well, to a minimal effect. Yep, and these guys just zip lining all the way down. Good to see. And I think back in the day, in the late '80s, I think Arnold did more stunts than what he would end up doing in, like, let's say, the late '90s or after that. So, like, obviously he would prepare himself physically for every role, 100%, no doubt about it. Like, one thing that was really cool about Terminator 3 was that he was actually able to get his body size to be the exact same measurements as it was in T2. And T3 took place, like, I don't know, like 10, 12 years later, something like that. Or was it 8 or 9 years? I don't know. I don't remember, but you get the point. So, and it was pretty cool. You know, you had a badass opening to the scene, and then you had a little bit of the camaraderie and maybe a few jokes here and there in the beginning. And now, you know, pretty much for the rest of the film, except for maybe one or two moments, this is the tone. This is basically the tone. You know, group of guys, armed, specialists, obviously, in what they do, and it's them in the jungle and the things that happen in between that make it interesting. And when you have an antagonist that you can't really see, or you don't know what it quite is, and yet it's doing the things that it's doing, you know, a simple premise like that makes everything that much interesting, because it puts you in there with the group, because you're thinking to yourself, what the hell is going on? What is this? What is that? You know, all these different questions that are running through your head, and you're like, what the hell? You know? So very understandable type of premise that is, in a sense, from a story perspective and as a motion picture perspective, is designed to keep the audience much engaged. It's like you're there with the group, you know, and you start to wonder, you know, who's going to survive or how, and all this kind of stuff. So, which makes films like this very brilliant. And you don't really need to make, there's no, when you have the character of the Predator, right, you really don't need to upgrade anything. You really don't. You know, you got to set the tone, you got to stick with the tone, and you got to keep their audience on their toes, which is what exactly this film accomplished, that the other films couldn't quite accomplish just like it. And of course, you had Arnold's charisma, and he was still on, you know. So now at this point, there's a heat seeker that they're talking about. They're like pretty sophisticated for mountain boys. And then basically you got Billy over here who's given a little bit of recon, a little bit of intel in terms of what's going on, which is pretty impressive because, again, you know, no computer technology like it is today. So, and at this point, Arnold's character Dutch is kind of suspecting that there may be some BS going on with Dylan. So, and thanks to Call of Duty, I'm a little bit more familiar with some of these weapons. Like Dylan has got a submachine gun, and it looks like an AK. No, I'm sorry, either an AK or no, it's not an AK. It's an MP5 from the looks of it. So again, very, very mysterious type of Jaws-esque. And at this point right here in this scene, he's his fellow soldiers telling him, "Do you remember Afghanistan?" He's like, "I'm trying to forget it. Let's go." And then as he walks away, Arnold's looking around. He's like, "What the hell's going on?" There's something's not adding up. So he's kind of got that worried look. And that's another thing about this. At this point, when you have a fictional character that Arnold is playing, and then he's got, for instance, that worried look on his face in an action film, it bears uh, a lot of impact because, quite frankly, you know, we know ahead of time that his character is kind of a badass. So all of a sudden, if he's worried, then the audience has a reason to be worried. Because and the thing is, he's kind of out of his comfort zone in this film, his character of Dutch, because he doesn't like. There's a lot of unusual things going on already, and the action hasn't even started picked up yet. It's like it's not making much sense. So, and of course, he doesn't just have himself to worry about, but he worries about his team as well because he is the leader of the team, and he's got to make sure that at the end of the day, you want all your men to come home. So, and then here we have a skinned body, three skinned bodies actually, which is something to even scare the character of Billy, who's a character that doesn't fear shit. And then later on, it's going to be revealed that, like he says it himself, that he's actually scared. And then his fellow man says, he's like, "Bullshit, you don't fear any man." He's like, "There's something out there waiting for us, and it ain't no man." So, and then of course you got your scavengers over there, your vultures, and some really good makeup effects and stuff like that. And then Bill Duke tosses Arnold somebody's dog tags, and he knows that he knew that man. So he's like, "What the hell? What the hell's going on here? What were they doing?" So, and he knew them too. Green berets. And Dylan says that he doesn't know. Nobody told me there was an operation in this area. Shouldn't have been here. And it's like, well, somebody sent them. So at this point, did Dylan know about that, or is he just confused? Because Dylan's character is not being completely honest. So it's like, what does he know? What does he not know? So, and here's the thing: they're looking around at everything that happened in the site, and they're like, they were shooting in all directions. So right there, obviously, now that we know the character, it's like, okay, this creature, was they don't know, they didn't know where it was, so they were shooting all over the place trying to shoot it, and they were being attacked. So, and when you see this film for the first time, it's like, what's up with these skin bodies? It's like, ew, that's gross, but yet it's scary at the same time, and they were hung upside down. So, like, what about the guys that attacked him? It's like, yep, it seems like they just disappeared. And which is kind of a metaphor because, well, that's what it is. The predator kind of is cloaked, and he kind of, you know. And here's one of the main guns in the game right here. This mini gun right here, which is a light machine gun, obviously. It's, badass in its own right. And then you got a badass that's carrying it, Jesse Ventura, of course. And here we get our kind of first tease. We get some computer generated imagery of what the predator sees. And you could tell it's like, okay, there's some sort of creature watching them from up on one of those trees, but they can't see this creature. And obviously they can't because he's cloaked. And when a predator is cloaked, it's basically like, basically the way they described it in the second one is like it's like able to bend light somehow, some way. So obviously more technologically advanced. Remember, 1987, that kind of imagery was cool and advanced for that time. So, and you could tell just by the colors and everything that it's picking up on their heat signature, which again is pretty much everything. And their camouflage does absolutely nothing. Especially when you compare their camouflage to the predators' camouflage. So, and again, Dutch just stops and just kind of looks up in the predator's general direction, even though he's being quiet as hell. But it's like, and fun fact: a predator will not kill anybody that's not armed. They won't go after anybody that's not armed. Up and Dylan over here, out of practice, kind of slips, makes a sound when they're trying to sneak up on some guys, and basically at this point, Bill Duke's like, "You're ghosting us. Doesn't matter who you are back in the world. Don't give up our position again, or else I'll take you out." So, and believe it or not, as personal as that sounds, it's actually not personal, because it's like, giving up your position is something that can get you and everybody else killed, because you got to be quiet as hell, especially when you're sneaking up on a bunch of people that have more firepower than you do, or that are outnumbering you and that are also armed. So, Arnold over here basically tells his team to spread out, and he's basically army crawling to a position where we can get a better look of things going on. And again, you see the entire site of so. And at this point, they're going to get ready to basically ambush these guys. And then they've got a perimeter going on to where everybody's basically there's even some guards. So then over here, one guy who's tied up and basically gets executed. And like as if it was nothing. So now Arnold basically, not happy about that, tells his team to come back down, to go come down, and so they just got rid of one of the hostages. So at this point, he's basically telling them what to do to take their positions. And of course, without hesitation, they follow. And it's very convincing too. Like, this entire team is very convincing. In this day and age, you can get you can have a cast of people that are in a movie, and it's like, it's not really believable that this person can lead this team, or with the way they're playing it is just not believable. But it's believable in this film. Arnold, of course, went through military training, as he grew up. And fun fact as well, he kind of went AWOL during his time to enter a bodybuilding competition when he was like, I don't know, 18 or something, like 16. I don't remember how old he was, but um, he was young and he entered a bodybuilding competition. He went AWOL. um, but yeah. So yeah, and of course, uh, Jesse Ventura, as I mentioned earlier, was a UDT, also known as a Navy SEAL. So, and then these guys over here are taking out better. And again, in this scene right here, you're basically showing how these guys are really superior, what they're doing. Like, they know what they're doing. And of course, Bill Duke over here with his knife, boom, doing what he does. Thumbs up. And then Arnold gets to kind of do what he does, this is basically Hollywood 100%. So of course you got to add a little Hollywood into it, right? You don't want to make it too realistic, right? So he's basically got a little backpack full of grenades that he could put back there, and then looks at the setup, and he decides to kind of mess around a little bit. And by the way, that wasn't grenades that was in there. That was C4. And C4 is definitely used by special forces, that's for sure. And of course, Arnold being Arnold, you got to do a little bit of the strong stuff. And there goes the vehicle, just heading right towards the building, and it's got a bunch of C4 in there, headed right towards the group of all those guys, and it's about to be blown up. Bam. Now they know that they're being invaded, and of course you got some grenades going off, and then here we go with some 80s action over here. Where and of course you've got the grenade launcher as well that's attached to the assault rifle. And some of the stuff that you probably seen in Call of Duty, like the War Machine, also known as a noob tube, that makes an appearance in this. And of course, you got your AK-47s, of course. So, yep. Oh, that War Machine's definitely doing damage. You can't go wrong with that. Looking good. And of course, you got Jesse Ventura with his minigun. Bam! Which Arnold would obviously use famously in Terminator 2. But it's really cool how they took such a heavy piece of weaponry and kind of made it more I don't want to say portable, but more mobile to where a guy that can carry that kind of weight and everything, and kind of impractical, but obviously it's some movie based, but still a cool freaking weapon. It's supposed to be attached to something else, but it's cool how they were able to just get the idea to detach it and have somebody carry it, with a backpack full of heavy ammunition, so that way they can let all that much ammo go. But I'm sure for Jesse, it must have been for him personally for this film. And you even got one of the guys dual wielding a gun. And then of course you got your classic. I'll throw a grenade in this area, and boom, there we go. So I'm really glad that they put this in the film to where you have like this action scene with Arnold's team doing the stuff before everything with Predator starts to take place, because it shows that they are all very very capable, right, at their job, and they're very team oriented, and they're very experienced at what they do, and they're basically taking out an entire really big, well, not really big, but they're considerably outnumbered, right? So they basically are able to sneak up on them and do what they're doing here, because the thing is, ultimately at the end of the day, they're a rescue team. They're not assassins like Arnold said. So, but every single one of them is definitely doing their thing. They're all basically kicking ass at this point and doing what they need to do. And of course, another little section with the minigun taking out multiple targets. And then you got the famous scene right here, which is basically also a meme, where Arnold throws a knife and gets a guy right through the chest. Stick around. More like the upper stomach, but still. And then, of course, you've always got to have the Arnold line. Kicks down the door, knock, knock, takes out a couple guys. And of course, you don't want to let anybody go because you don't want to have anybody escape. So, and somebody sneaks up on Arnold last second, and it happens to be a woman. He hits her with the butt of his gun and knocks her out. But yeah, now again with her in this, it kind of makes it very interesting, because at the same time, it's like in the film, the woman is like us, right? She's like us in this situation, right? So later on, she suspects that something's going on and all that kind of stuff, and it's like, she's basically us. So, and then they noticed that something really big was going to happen over here. He's being reported. Mac is reporting to Arnold that it's the Dutch. That's yep, it's not what they went in for. So originally in the first place, and that pisses him off. Obviously, Dylan knew, but Dutch didn't. So they weren't honest with him. Now he wasn't honest with him. That was a problem. And then, of course, you got the famous line by Jesse Ventura, of course, Blaine, who basically says, "I ain't got time to bleed." He's like, "You're hit. You're bleeding, man." He's like, "I ain't got time to bleed." Basically the thought process of a Navy SEAL, in which he is again in real life. Um, these guys will take a bullet and will keep going, especially if it's a uh, non lethal hit. And of course, Dutch is pissed off and basically pushes Dylan to the wall. He's like, "This is all bullshit. The whole business. You got us here to do your dirty work." So And he's like, why us? He's like, nobody else could have pulled it off. And then you got Hopper. And then basically he was the one whose dog tags they found is like he was supposed to rescue his men. So, and at this point, obviously, their friendship right now is being severed. And he's like, "What happened to you? I used to trust you." Like, and he tells him, "You're an expendable asset, and I used you to get the job done." He's like, "My men are not expendable. I don't do this." So, yeah, I would have definitely reacted the same way. I would have definitely reacted the same way, especially if it was a friend that used you like that. It's like, but at the same time, you could tell that Dylan is, he's obviously there's more going on with his character and stuff like that. So, and again, now Arnold's gonna, now Dylan, I mean, Dutch is gonna make Dylan's job harder, and he's like, "You've got her. You fall behind, you're on your own." And then, of course, we start to see that this creature is watching again, and now these guys got to get out of there. In which Billy's very very well with versed with maps. So, and at this point, again, relationships have been severed. We just had a major action scene that was not what it was supposed to be, at least what, from what Dutch's team thought. And then here's an interesting scene. Mac, the guy who threatened Dylan earlier for, well, not personally. Well, it sounded personal, but it wasn't. But he's basically going to trick him to turn around and watch his back. Turn around because, like, turn around. Like, look up there. And there was a scorpion behind him, and he takes his knife and takes it out. And he's like, thank you. Thanks. Anytime. So yeah, it was a little baby scorpion, but hey, it managed to get on his back. And then here's pretty much the last piece of comedy that you get from the film. He's like, the other day I said to my wife, "Geez, you got a big pussy. Geez, you got a big pussy." And she said, "Why'd you say that twice?" And he's like, "I didn't, because the echo." And then this time, Billy actually gets the joke and he starts laughing. Very serious character, and then he starts laughing. So, in which Predator hears this and he actually records it, which he actually ends up using later. And again, Billy's character again, despite the fact that there's no way he can know that there's something there, he still kind of suspects something. He's like looking up and he's looking around. It's like he's suspecting something, but he eventually just ends up getting out of there. And then now we get like our first tease of what this creature is, right? What this predator is, and you see it through his vision, like through this right now. You don't see anything, but then you start to see through his vision that he's basically coming down from the trees really slowly, and then he ends up it ends up spotting the dead scorpion. He picks it up with his hand, and then from the hand alone you could tell that it's not a human, right? It's alien. It's, you get a little bit of an idea of what this thing is. It's got big hands, and it's a big it's a big creature. Actually, the gentleman that plays Predator is actually like 7'2", and in the suit he's like 7'6" or something like that. So Kevin Peter Hall was a tall man, and uh, so in the suit it made him obviously even taller. But yeah, whenever they cast people to play Predator, it's always somebody that's really big. Like I remember, I think I think one gentleman that reprised his role twice for Predator. Obviously, Kevin Peter Hall reprised his role for the second film as well. But I remember, I think it was what's his name? Ian White was a gentleman named Ian White was cast to play Predator, um, three times or twice. He played in the first AVP and in the second one where he played Wolf. So he's definitely got the physicality of the Predator, right? But it all started with Kevin Peter Hall, though. You gotta admire Peter Hall's body language with the Predator, because again, in the first film and in the second film, he did a terrific job, and he really gave the Predators. It's really hard to give a certain character, namely an alien character. When they don't speak, like we do, and stuff like that, to give them that personality. So how you do it? You use your body language, right? So that's very difficult to do, to make yourself that convincing, and create a sort of type of personality for a character through body language. That's very tough to do. And it's the same thing with Jason. Like Jason doesn't speak. He's got the mask on. That's one thing Kane Hodder did so well, who played Jason from Friday the 13th four times, five if you count the 2018 film. Excuse me, the 2018 video game, which he actually reprised his role for the mocap, and that man could still do it. so um so yeah, it's always something that I've admired, and it was actually the behind the scenes of the Friday the 13th films to where I noticed something like that, and I'm like, you know what, I never really thought of that. And I'm like, you know what, much credit to them, because it's very difficult to do. So, and at this point, these guys are just basically trying to get the heck out of there, so that way they can get extracted, and and end up going home. So um and then Dutch pretty much you know has to be with the woman. And of course, at this point right now, they're just gonna chill because they've been walking for God knows how long. And you can tell that Mac and Blaine, aka Bill Duke's character, and Jesse Ventura's characters, you can tell that they're really close friends at this point. I mean, technically speaking, they're all close friends, when they do this, but at the same time, there's guys that, you know, carry on some sort of friendship beyond just going to missions and stuff like that. So, and at the end of the day, when if you're with a special force team and everything like that, you're basically brothers, at this point. So, and the woman tries to escape, and she fails, of course. So at this point, again, it's like, maybe you better put her on her leash, Ancient Man. So it's like, he's kind of an outsider at this point. He kind of was from the start, but they kind of, you know, respected him. And then once everything went down, it's like, and then of course Billy, with his very intense look on his face, it's like he's always able to sense, if there's something there that's out of place, or something there that shouldn't be there. And none of them has any idea. That's the thing. Billy does, though. None of them have any idea. Like, Arnold's basically going to be like, going to instruct everybody to hold their positions, because Billy's on point, and he's suspecting something, despite the fact that it's perfectly camouflaged and everything. So nobody's got the kind of awareness that Billy does. So it basically tells him to stop, and then tells him to spread out. And yeah, at this point, Billy just, like, something's up. So, and Judge is wondering, he's like, what's got Billy so spooked? He's like, I can't say. And he's basically telling him, he's like, that damn nose of his is weird. It's like, of course it's weird, because he's able to sense something that the rest of them can't. So, and he knows something's up, but he just can't see it, or can't tell. And they carry on, obviously, and he says, oh, I guess it's nothing major, but still. um this is where kind of the I don't want to say horror element, but kind of a horror element, because there are a few elements of that, because of the mystery behind everything, kind of like Jaws. It's not, you know so So it's like you're wondering what's going on. It's like, and we haven't even seen this character yet, right? But we know he's out there, and we're wondering what the hell it is and all that stuff. So, um, and even now, all these years later, we obviously know what it is and all that kind of stuff, but it still plays. Uh, it's still a really good effect in terms of everything. So at this point, Dutch is telling Billy, he's like, "What's wrong with you? Like, there's something in those trees." So can't fully tell what it is, but he knows there's something, even though it's perfectly fucking camouflaged. And Arnold's trying to look, and then he's like, I guess it's nothing major. And then they just keep going forward, and then just looking at him, and he's like, what's going on? So, but they're all patient, and they all respect Billy's abilities, right? Um, so at this point, Arnold can't see anything. He's looking, can't. I guess it's nothing major. Still senses something there, but he's like, I guess it's nothing. So again, uh, Dutch's characters, and then bam, the woman manages to escape because she knocked him out with a really big tree branch, and one of the guys is going after her. And this is where things really start to pick up in the mystery factor as well as the horror element, because you're like, what the hell's going on? So, and you get to see it camouflaged, but you're like, what is this, post or something? So eventually he catches up to her, and he's able to take her down without hurting her, of course. So, and then out of nowhere, Predator shows up, and her entire face is covered with blood, and you don't know what the hell just happened. And then you see the camouflage picking up the ankle of the body and just dragging him away. So it's in the form of a humanoid, so it looks like it's a human, but with like really advanced technology. But we all know it's not human thanks to the hand. But it's like what is this? And then she's completely covered in blood, and she's scared shit, and she didn't run away. And then there's a trail of blood, and then it's like, uh, and she can't, and she can't really describe everything that happened. So, and then his gear is off, and there's just a trail of blood, and then all you see is a bunch of his graphic fashion, a bunch of his, yeah, insides on the ground. And at this point, everybody's like, "What the hell's going on? This isn't blood, her blood." And then one of the guys like, "What'd you do to him?" And he's like, and then here's an interesting thing. He's like, "Did you find Hawkins?" He's like, "I can't tell." And again, they're all looking at each other like, "What?" And then when she describes it, after they ask her what happened, when she describes it, basically like that, they're like, but they can't find his body though. There's no sign of the body. But it basically like what happened, and describes it as, oh, the jungle came alive and just took him, which is actually how it seemed like, because he's perfectly camouflaged. So, and then the poor woman is just completely like terrified at this. So, uh, the interesting part about all this is because again, she's not making any sense. And then And basically at this point it's like, why didn't they take his radio or his weapon? Why didn't she, if guys actually came and took her? And he's like, and then all of a sudden Dylan just is like, Hopper. And he's like, what? Same thing happened to Hopper. So at this point they're going to be on a search for his body. So it's like 50-meter spread, giving orders. It's like they want to find his body. So, and again, everything again. This is where, again, the horror and mystery element really pick up at this. And it's really, really interesting how you go from the type of action that was, your meat and potatoes of actions, and then now with this scene, it's like completely different. Like stealth, it's quiet. It makes you think. It makes you wonder. And as an audience member, you don't know what the hell's going on and when it's going to happen because it just kind of happens out of nowhere, right? And you're still wondering what the hell this is. So again, this film does it masterfully, masterfully. And then again, good camera work here again, where the camera slowly goes up, and then you see that Hawkins' body is up there. Again, there's the trail of blood that's going up the trees and stuff, and basically just like before what we saw, except I don't know, I don't think he's skinned at this. I don't think Hawkins' body gets, or at least not in this. Or I don't remember. Probably see it, but um, but yeah, he's way up there on the trees. So and basically, uh, it's like the one thing you got to be thinking of is like this thing is strong as hell because it carried him up the tree while it was climbing. So it just goes to show you, man, that when you think about some of these things that you see, and some of the things that you don't see, your imagination starts to run wild, and it's like, and even your common sense starts to run wild. It's like you're thinking to yourself, this thing must be strong as hell. Even and Arnold was a strong man back in his prime, right? And even in this film, which was after his prime. I mean, he was close to his prime, but it was still after his prime. And then, of course, you see a bit, and now you see some advanced weaponry being used on Blaine's character that literally just goes right through him. And then Mac sees what the woman was describing, and he's like, "What the hell?" And he's scared shitless at this point. And then he starts firing, and the next thing you know, everybody starts going towards Mac's location and starts firing. But Mac actually ended up hitting the Predator in the leg as it was getting away. And he was lucky too because he couldn't see it. So, and he picks up the minigun, just starts shooting all over the place, and it's like, so I bet you the actors must have had a lot of fun doing this part right here, to where they all just start firing, like literally firing like all their guns and shit. And the thing is, they don't see anything, so it's like, and it also must have been really loud. But yeah, I mean, I bet you they had a lot of fun just unloading all this shit of ammo. Pretty much testosterone filled scene. But they hit absolutely nothing. Pancho will come back and he'll tell them like, there's no blood, no nothing. We hit nothing. But there was blood though, but they just don't realize it is blood yet. But the woman does. The woman does, which, he says later to Arnold, it's like, when the big man was killed, you must have wounded it because its blood was on the leaves. And then Arnold famously says, bleeds, we can kill it. So, because right now everything is such a mystery, they don't know what the hell they're dealing with. They're in their, the thing is, they're in their element, right, doing what they do best, armed and everything like that. At the same time, they don't know what the hell's going on. And he's like, what happened? And he's like, I saw it. So, and then you see the big hole right there on the body, and it's like, it's one hell. no shrapnel, no powder burns, all fused and caterized. And it's like, what the hell is this? And that's the thing. None of these guys can explain it. He's like, I saw something. I don't know what it was, but I saw it. And it's none of them can explain what the hell's going on. Not a trace, not anything. They hit nothing. No blood, no bodies. They hit nothing with all that. So they're dealing with something that none of them have dealt with it before. So he's going to need a defensive position above with everything we've got. And at this point, they're setting up camp. And he's like, we're going to take him with, put him in his poncho. We're going to take us. And like, I got him. And he stops and looks at him and he just nods his head. Because you could tell right there that they were close friends. And then some cool effects with the blood. I don't know if that's something that they. Yeah, that's not special effects. The glowing part they have in special effects, but it just depends on the scene, I guess. I don't know. I think it just depends on whether or not it's filmed day or not. I don't know. Sure. But it could be that same liquid that they use in glow in the dark sticks. You never know. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. But yeah, that was the first shot of the predator's blood, and then these guys are basically setting up tripwires and stuff like that. Defensive position. I guess they're just going to camp there for the day. But the thing is, the predator sees everything. That's the thing. But at the same time, they don't know. They don't know what they're dealing with. That's the thing for them. It's like they don't know what they're doing. So they've got flares, frags, and claymores. Like nothing's coming up here without tripping on something. And he says, Mac, he was a good soldier. Mac says he was my friend. So, and then Arnold's always got to play the tough one or the one that's got a straight face all the time. And then when Mac walks away, Dutch, you see Dutch turns around and he's got the little bit of emotion in his eyes because he is a character that he's the kind of leader that's hard as hell, but at the same time he's and in this film I have to like remind one thing that we see later on, obviously in the end of the film in the climax, like Arnold's character gets his ass absolutely handed to him at the end, like at the end of this film in the climax. Like I don't think there's any other character that whooped Arnold's ass in hand-to-hand combat like Predator did. And the character of Dutch, is obviously a very tough character and a very well trained character and a very strong character. Especially when you compare him to his fellow man, right? And for him not to be able to do anything physically against this alien being is, it just goes to show you, not just from a technological standpoint with the Predator's technology, but with everything else, it's like this type of creature is hard to beat. So if a human were to survive or let alone beat a predator in some way, shape, or form, right, which in Dutch does at the end of this film with his wits or whatnot, um, uh, this is usually why if there are other predators nearby, they'll basically award the person with something. Like in the second film, Danny Glover's character gets a weapon that was from the 1700s, right? So in Alien versus Predator, it happened again. So it's like, it's a show of respect and it's a gift. So because they know they're superior, they're let's be real here. A predator is much stronger, much larger, and more agile and everything than a human is. So the fact that Dutch survived the end of this film is and again, and it shows you how your wits are your ultimate weapon. It's like no matter how much how physically you could prepare for something, your wits and your mind is what's going to get you from to that finish line. Kind of like with Navy SEAL training, there's really nothing you could do to prepare for buds. You can get in shape all you want and do all the best and stuff like that, but ultimately it's your mind that's going to carry you through. And that's why more than 70% of people that go to buds Navy SEAL training fail. And now passing buds doesn't make you a SEAL. You have to go through SEAL qualification training afterwards, which again, an additional amount of people quit or don't make it through because of failing the tests or something like that, or maybe injury. So, um, you know, uh, these type of people that are in special forces, like the guys that are represented by this group here, and again, Jesse Ventura's character, Jesse Ventura, the guy who just again who played Blaine, real life UDT, he went through that. So these people are really really special people, very very tough people, mentally, physically. They don't know the words "I can't" is not in their vocabulary. So lots of respect for people that have abilities like that. And I've been fortunate in my life to meet a handful of Navy. These people are awesome. I actually know one of them, friend of the family actually. Um, and at this point right here, they're this scene over here, they're just trying to understand what's going on, and like they're asking the woman again what happened in Spanish, and it's like she says the exact same thing. It's like, and at this point, he's looking at Billy and he's like, something, what is it? Like, and he says the truth. He's like, I'm scared, Pancho. And it's like, bullshit, you're not afraid of any man. He's like, there's something out there for coming, waiting for us, and it ain't no man. So, and the way this man carries this character in this film, very tough, very very tough. And he's, you know, Dylan thinks that it's a handful of guys, and he's like, we got to take him down. He's like, you don't understand. Whatever it is out there, got Hopper, and it got, like, now it wants us. And now we fade into the night now, to where Bill Duke has a little one-on-one conversation with, and he's on watch. That's what they do. They take turns watching, and that's basically how it goes. But yeah, yep. So at this point, it's like he's all about getting payback for a friend. Of course, he starts to hear things, and some of the teammates wake up because they hear things, especially Billy, because Billy's just so well aware. And one of the tripwires goes off. So, but it wasn't Predator; it was actually a pig or a hog at this point. So, just a little interesting thing. It's like, the audience at this point would be wondering, like, what's going on. They would probably end up wondering, but Mac is struggling with this thing, and yeah, it's basically a hog. Something interesting happens during all of this, by the way. So again, it's night. Mac got attacked by a hog and he killed it. And one of the guys makes a joke. Do you think you could have found something bigger? And they forgot about the girl, but the girl doesn't escape. She just stays where she's at. Doesn't go anywhere. It's night. What's she gonna do? Where's she gonna go? Be all by herself? No, she needs the protection of all the guys. Poor thing is scared. And then check this out. Predator managed to sneak in, got through their defenses, and took Blaine's body. Came in through the tripwires, took it right from under our noses. So at this point, again, everybody's looking at each other like, what the fuck? Like, again, Predator could see it all. So it's like, you know, goes to show you, man. It's like he could have. The thing is, he could have gone after all of them. So it's like he's kind of playing with them. But again, if they're again, a predator though has rules of honor though. I mean, if you're not armed, he's not. It's not gonna if you're not being threatening, if you're not armed, it's actually not gonna. And at this point, Arnold's like, he's killing us one at a time, and then Billy's like a hunter, like a hunter. So, and at this point, Arnold realizes that he's using the trees. So it's like, yep, Predator's using the trees. So at this point, Arnold just decides to talk to the woman himself this time. Like yesterday, what did you see? No, no more wasting your time. No more games. And then she speaks English this time. Like I don't know what it was. Is like change colors, like chameleon. Using the jungle. So at this point, Dylan's like, things was killed by a damn lizard, and he still thinks that there's men out there on the hunt. He's like, no. So at this point, Dutch cuts her loose. He's gets his knife out, and she's threatened at first, and he's like, Anna, this thing is hunting us, all of us. You know that, right? She nods her head and then cuts her loose. And he says he's gonna need everyone because now they have to make a stand. Because at this point, if they don't make a stand now, nobody's gonna make it to go to the chopper. And then now she tells him that it bled because of they must have wounded when his blood was on the leaf. Then he says, if it bleeds, we can kill it. So, and now the whole group is setting up claymores and stuff like that. But they're also failing to remember at the same time that, well, remember at night it went through all this stuff and took a body under their noses. I mean, it's a nice montage, and I like it quite a bit. And it sets the tone. These guys are making a stand now because they, uh, but ultimately it's like there's not, but at the same time, again, just goes to show they don't know what they're dealing with. I mean, they know very little, but again, they're trying, they're doing what they can, what their training taught them. So, but they don't know that this thing is out of this world. So again, very interesting. When you don't know anything about your enemy, and when, like, remember, you guys remember the Last Samurai? It's like one of the things that he wants to know his enemy. It's good to know your enemy, and these guys are basically fighting an enemy that they don't know, not completely at least. And of course, you got Carl Weathers over here, finally, having a shirtless scene, and the guy's in tremendous shape. Carl Weathers is, in awesome shape, man. You know? And even though Arnold's known for his physique, obviously Arnold's not in bodybuilding shape in this film. He's still in great shape, but not in bodybuilding shape. But honestly, as far as the physique goes, Carl Weathers, in my opinion, had the best physique. And in general, man, that guy was always in great shape when in the films that he was in. So yeah, they finished setting everything up, and they're just waiting. They're just waiting, and the whole place is a trap. So, and it's pretty much really quiet, and of course, Mac is just shaving. Point. And again, everybody's looking around. So it's like, what makes you think he's like, there's tripwires in every tree for this 50 yards, and it's the only way in. So it's like kind of like a maze for the predator, so to speak. And again, they don't know what they're dealing with. But they suspect it's one person because they said he. So it's like, and then Mac pretty much just pushed a little too hard and broke the razor. So she tells an interesting story. The woman tells an interesting story. So told about a story, which is probably like whenever like there's the hottest times of year, I guess the a predator comes and basically like they've been coming to Earth throughout time and just been making trophies of men. And they because they found like her parents or her grandparents told stories of or her village people told stories about how they'd find bodies without their skin, stuff like so. Yeah, and Arnold was definitely listening to that one. And at this point, Dutch decides basically step out there, and he almost accidentally trips on a wire too. A lot of booby traps out there. So going straight out there armed and almost tripping over some wires in order to get there. So probably thinking that he's gonna like, you know, probably get him to move or lead him on because again, none of them know what they're dealing with. They don't know that he's like right there and he's camouflaged. And the thing is, he's actually like kind of behind him. Boom, goes up, goes off, and they actually manage to catch him, but he gets loose thanks to his technology. And whoa. And then now they finally get to see a little something. Well, Mac does at least. And then now Dylan does, and he's like, what? And he actually, for a brief moment, Predator gets out of his camo and then goes back into camo. And then just disappears into the jungle again. And then Mac is on the chase at this point, and of course, at this point, Arnold wants to go after Mac, but uh, Dylan decides to. And he's like, that's not your style. He's like, yeah, I guess I picked up some bad habits from you. So he's like you can't win this. He's like, maybe I can get even. So he gives him another gun, and he's like, hold on to the chopper. And at this point they exchanged a few looks, and it's like he's basically telling him like, hey, be careful. Because in the direst of situations, even though everything that was happening earlier, they find themselves in the same dilemma, and at the end of the day, friends will be friends despite everything. So because I guess their relationship was many years, and yet here they are again. And then Mac is continuing to chase this almost invisible figure, and he's not nearly as fast. So yeah, and Mac is pretty much slowly but surely almost losing his mind. He's gonna have me some fun. He repeats that so many times. And he took off some of his gear. And then Dylan's worried at this point because he's like, oh, did the same shit happen to him? So, and again, it's a hell of a workout when you're rushing through the village and then you've got all these trees and it's hot out and it's, you know, an obstacle course to a certain extent. I mean, you get a hell of a workout and a hell of a sweat. Now, you probably are not acting very much, it's because it's legit, when you're doing a chase scene and stuff like that. It's a workout, man. And again, Carl Weathers in terrific shape, as you can see in this scene. He's looking for Mac, and Mac has disappeared, but Mac was right behind him and manages to pull him in. And he's like, look over there past the tree. And he can see Predator because even though he's camouflaged, he can see him. He's like, look, you see it? And he's right there and he's camouflaged. And the thing is, Mac is like, I see you, and but he doesn't know that the Predator can see him as well. So they don't know about its vision or anything like that. So like, yep, I see it. And he can hear them as well. That's another thing. Predator's got, with the technology and everything. So at this point, he's like, I got a score to settle, and he's like, we both got, because they both lost men to this. So they're planning on, you guys are planning on teaming up together to get this thing, but again, they don't know what they're dealing with, and they can only go through what they know through their training. But I mean, at this point, they know it's got camouflage, but they don't know that it can see them like very clearly. Because if it was on even terms, then things might have worked out a little bit differently. But again, Dylan's trying to go around, and then Mac is going the other direction. And then as he's sneaking by, you see the famous 3 dots on his forearm, and he looks at it. And it goes to his head, and he's like, oh, boom. Oh. And it must have not been that loud either. Yep, Predator was right there above him the entire time and took him out. I'm actually surprised it wasn't louder to where it could have heard him, but at this point, Dutch, the girl, and Poncho, Billy, basically trying to get the hell out of there and get to the chopper. Dylan's all by himself. He doesn't know that Mac has been taken out. He finds out in a minute. He sees that Mac's been taken out. And he hears the voice from the recording, where Mac was like, anytime. And then he's looking around. He can't spot anything, but he knows what he's looking for. So he's kind of looking up on the trees, and then he finally spots him. So brilliant camouflage too. And then the eyes, of course, lighting up. And then, of course, his instincts are to shoot it, in which he does. But then he's got the laser on his arm. And Predator basically shoots him, and it basically takes his arm off. And a really good effect. It actually looks pretty real. But Dylan doesn't give up though. He tries. He's in pure survival mode. Obviously, he just lost an arm, so gonna use his other one to do the best he can. But unfortunately, it doesn't work out. He kind of gets impaled and lifted to the ground. And that's another thing too. It's when he got the gauntlets out, when the Predator got his gauntlets out, it's like got him in the stomach and then got him, and he lifted him up. So it's like Again, showing you that this creature is actually quite strong. And I'm assuming Carl Weathers was around, I would say 190 to 200, maybe even yeah, I'd probably say 190 to 200 solid. I don't know how tall he is. If I knew how tall he was, I'd give a more accurate number. And that's not a lightweight at all to carry. And then Arnold was 240 in his prime, but in this one he might weigh slightly more or slightly less, because he's got less muscle because he's not in his prime, but he's got more body fat because he's not in competition shape. So um, I wouldn't be surprised if Arnold was at least 220 in this movie. So, and then Billy stays behind and basically for some reason takes out his machete and starts slicing his chest with it. Not sure what that's all about. Maybe somebody else does. I don't know. Was just sitting there waiting with the machete in his hand, and it's like, just sitting there waiting. And he basically gets taken out off screen. We don't see it, but we hear it. So Arnold and the girl are basically, and Poncho are basically trying to running away, and then they hear Billy screaming, and they stop and point the gun at him. And then poor Poncho over here gets taken out from the side with a laser shot right to the head. On so at this point, Arnold realizes that he kicks the gun out of her hand and then tries to shoot Predator, but he gets shot himself. But it's a shoulder shot, so it doesn't kill him, thankfully. But it knocks him on his ass pretty good. And he tells her to get to the chopper, but he took a hit to the shoulder. He's down on the ground and he's in pain. And from this point on, it's basically one-on-one between Arnold and Predator. And Arnold's actually really lucky at this point that he makes it out alive because but the thing is, he's not armed at this point. So, but Arnold actually realizes now that he's actually known for like the last few minutes that it's not going to kill you unless you're armed, and that's why she went to go grab the gun. And he kicked it out of her hand. He's like, "No, don't do it because if you're armed, it's going to kill you. But if you're not, it won't." And again, Arnold's basically running, get the hell out of there, and barely makes it out because there's a downhill. Then he's like, "Oh shit!" So he's gonna fall right into the water. So yeah, he was very lucky because Predator was like literally right behind him. I'm actually surprised. Well, I mean, obviously the script didn't call for it, but I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm actually surprised that the Predator, like as far as character goes, like didn't like immediately jump behind him. But Arnold's character goes through down a couple waterfalls and he manages hell out of there. And he's very lucky because he catches a break because there's pretty much nothing but mud when he gets to some of the land. So, he gets right to the land and he's just kind of laying there and it's nothing but mud, which ends up saving his ass. But he only gets a few seconds of rest because, well, boom, right behind him there's a splash and it's like, and there's mud all over Arnold at this point because he's kind of just dragging himself. And the mud gets all over him, so it's like, you know, and he's not armed, doesn't have a knife or anything. So he just kind of chills there by the tree. And he's completely lucky. I guess he tries to hide as best he can and camouflage himself as best he can and just not move. but he has no idea that the predator can't see him. At least he doesn't know yet. And again, completely covered in mud. And now he sees the enemy for the first time. We see the enemy for the first time clearly. Good thing Arnold didn't move when it looked in his general direction, and then he's looking around and it's like, yep, can't see him. Like perfectly blending in. And then he sees a little bit of color and he tries to fire at it, but it's like a rat or something. So again, now Arnold knows exactly what he's dealing with. So and he realizes that thanks to the mud that he couldn't see him. So basically at this point mud becomes his best friend. So it's like now it's more on even terms. Like, yep, couldn't see him. So at this point, mud is his best friend, and he's going to be covered in mud for the rest of the film. Well, at least most of the film. So now, in terms of visibility, they're kind of on even ground at this point, which is good. And he's basically going to have to refer to, I guess, the things that he's learned in special forces to create things like booby traps and all that kind of stuff. Because I think, yep, that's all he's got is a knife at this. I don't even know if he even had that knife in the previous scene. I don't know. Maybe it's a movie mistake. I'm not sure. Or maybe he did and he just decided to like put it down because again, shows that he's armed. I wanted to show that he's armed. So the predator thinks you got a weapon, wham bam. Well, despite the fact he's hunting him already anyway. Pretty damn amazing what you can do with just one knife. And again, he's creating all these traps, and eventually one of them is the one that ends up saving his ass. So and a little bit of strength showing off here with the log with Arnold. Been hard as hell for him to be able to do that, but he's got it. And then right here we get the scene where Predator's messing with Billy's body and basically takes out his spinal cord uh, and his head and skull and just kicks the body down and cleans the skull, I guess. So, and then we have the scene over here where Arnold is starting to make some, he's working on a bow and arrow from scratch. I like these kind of scenes. It's kind of like a Rocky montage scene, but again at the same time different. Pretty badass. Make a bow and arrow from scratch and then test it. Able to go right through a tree. That's interesting. Wood going through a tree. And he's basically got two noob tubes, so to speak, left. And he gets all the powder out of there and he's gonna kind of use them kind of like a grenade style or something like that. And at this point you can see Predator's got a little bit of a skull of collections. So, which he admires. And then you got Arnold over here prepping for combat because he's got his war face on and everything, and he's putting mud all over him. So he's gonna need it. He's gonna need all that camo, as much of it as he can. Perfectly covered in mud, and he's ready to go at this point. And he's actually the one saying, "Okay, let's fight." At this point, he's doing this to get Predator's attention. At this point, he lights up some wood, and does the scream or whatnot, and then or the howl, roar. Some Conan the Barbarian right there, in which the Predator hears it. And then Predator basically starts getting his shit ready. All he does is basically takes that laser and starts lighting up his gauntlet with it. And then we're gonna have your classic forest fire right there for lighting, which is gonna come handy, especially for Dutch. And this is nice though. I really like this kind of setting. It's man versus, it's David and Goliath right there on the, you know, and again, Arnold is very outmatched right here. That's the thing though. He's the ultimate underdog because that's what's unique about this film. You're used to seeing Arnold not be the underdog, right? Okay, so but in this film he is the underdog 100%. So and it's very unique because his character is usually not that. So it's like you got one of your elite human beings, elite military human beings, right, with special forces, and then going up against this hunter from another world that is more physically and technologically advanced, and again is so much more advanced technologically and physically, like in every way, like, and you know basically Arnold's handicapped at this point, and right behind him Predator's right there. You can't see him thanks to the mud, but he makes sounds, so Dutch is able to pick up on it, but Dutch manages to stay calm despite the fact that this creature is literally right next to him. So he manages to stay calm. So as soon as he sees that he's in the clear, he basically, just silently gets the rope and is able to go onto the other side into another tree. In which again, Predator doesn't hear it. I mean, he heard something, but he didn't see anything. So he's like, okay, don't see anything. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna keep going. And then, but Arnold sees him, so gonna make the arrow. He's gonna make his bow and arrow as useful as he can. And then he's got the leaves with the powder on the other end of it, so he's gonna shoot it with that. And yep, and it got the camo. It got the camo gone, and at this point, Predator is gonna shoot in that general direction so much that his cannon malfunctions and he can't use it anymore. So that's a big win for Dutch. And some really good effects here from the movie as well. You see the sparks and everything like that, and the explosions going off with minimal CG effects. He manages to get Dutch off the tree though, And then Dutch has to get the hell out of there. The impact of the fall, though, has caused Dutch to bleed a little bit now. But his technology is a little malfunctioned at this point. So, and Dutch trying to get the hell out of there, but he ran into a branch and Predator picked up on it. So he's gonna try to catch up. And then you can see a little bit of the athleticism of the Predator here, how he's easily just going from, you know, so compared to Dutch, Predator's way too fast and manages to cut him off, but he can't see him because of the mud. And thankfully, Dutch just manages to sneak and go under uh, the log that he was just standing on. So, so yeah, 100%. Dutch being as sneaky as he could possibly be. Yep. And it's very hard to be sneaky against a predator, but Dutch does it well. He's got a couple of other weapons here. He picks up basically a spear, or is it two spears? One or two spears at this point, which he attached the knife to turn it into a spear. And he knows he can hear him very well, so he throws a rock. Very smart. And then Predator goes to shoot it, which he does. So now he can tell where he's at. He can tell where that came from, and he's going to wait for one more. Except the thing is, the Predator's technology is going to use it to track to where that rock probably got thrown from. And he misses Arnold, but Arnold sees him this time, so he throws the spear, and boom! The explosion. Very nice. Well, the first one he threw was basically the gunpowder. And that was his second one. So, and at this point, Dutch is kind of slowly but surely moving in for the kill along with the spear. And he knows he got him because there's some blood that glows, thankfully, and you can tell that it's there. And now he's like, okay, so he's progressing. So far he's actually managing to outdo the Predator so far. And props to Dutch. And now Predator manages to he retreats in the cave. Pretty dark too. The only thing you can see is the blood, pretty much, apart from the Predator. So, and I kind of like how Arnold himself almost kind of looks like a Predator in this scene, because like he's got the mud all over him, and then the most you could see is through his eyes in the dark. So, but you get a little bit of a horror theme right here, to where you get a little bit of blood dripping behind Arnold, but he can hear it, but it's really quiet at the same time. So he's behind me. Then Predator manages to see a little something because some of the mud's wearing off, but he's got a backup. Got a little bit more gunpowder that he lights up, and then he tosses behind them right before he just jumps out of the way. Kind of like a distraction. But Predator manages to see him behind, tries to shoot him, and then misses. And at this point, Arnold basically falls in the water, which means his element of surprise is completely gone now because the mud's going to wash away. So, very valiant effort, though. Like, in terms of what he was doing a damn good job. And he goes to get up, and bam, Predator's right there behind him, but it doesn't kill him. And he just grabs him and just shoves him up. It just lifts him up against the tree by the neck, by the throat, with one arm, which again demonstrates just how superior the fucking Predator is. And it also shows you that this thing is at least 2 feet taller than Arnold, which again, Arnold is 6'2", but he's, well, it's, you know, 6'2", but still, I mean, obviously in the movies it's exaggerated, but, and he checks out Arnold's skull with his vision, and he just puts him down, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna work for this, and obviously at the same time it's being honorable because, well, you know, just looking at him, and he's like, you know, you're not armed or anything, so he decides to take off like all of his stuff and quote unquote give him a fair shot. And you can see the mask; he's got a mask on, so it's now we're about to get a first glimpse of the Predator without the mask. I wonder what the theater reaction was when they saw this in the theater first time, when they saw that this was you know, what this creature actually looked like, and how they responded to it. So, you know, for me personally, I'm pretty sure they probably thought like, oh my gosh, probably what Arnold is about to say in this upcoming film here. So, and again, good acting by Arnold with his facial expressions. You know, the mask goes up, the vision changes. Now the technology is not there, and Arnold's looking at it, and he's like, oh my gosh, you're one ugly motherfucker. But at this point, yep, we got the mandibles going and the roar, and it's like, oh shit. And at this point, you know, he knows that he's gonna have to fight this thing, and Arnold just grabs a really thick ass brain stride. Yep, nope, breaks it, and he's like, bad idea. And then Arnold takes his first hit from this thing now, and he just goes back like 10 to 20 feet, and he's like, okay, like this thing is strong as hell. And of course, with the gauntlet, it misses a couple times, and then Arnold gets a clean hit on this thing, and it doesn't do much. Mandible kind of moves a little bit, but right now, at this point, Arnold is taking some big freaking hits, man. He's being, you know, manhandled by punches and everything else. Like, Predator's punches are no fucking joke. You know, at this point, Arnold takes such a huge beating. There's nothing he could do. You know, you even got like he's even taking parts of trees out whenever he misses. So yeah, in terms of the character of Dutch, you know, even though Dutch survives this film, I guarantee you that Dutch hasn't taken a beating quite like this ever again in his life. So, so it's like, yeah, so you see the character of Arnold just completely get his ass handed to him in a way that you've never seen Arnold get his ass handed to him before, especially physically like this, and easily too. Like Arnold is literally crawling away, and he's like bleeding, and he's like, you know, just, and the only thing he's got left, you know, and the only thing he's got left is that final trap. That's it. You know, with the spikes. So, but you know, well, this is the interesting part right here. So, gets the gauntlets out. I guess he wants to finish him off now. So, and he's looking under, and Dutch is hoping that he trips over it, and then Predator just stops for a second, looking at him, and he's like, "What? Like what? You're gonna trapping me or something?" He's like, he's hesitating. So he goes to move forward, and he's noticing that there's a spike right there. He's like, "Yep, I know what you're doing." And Arnold's like, "Yep, kill me. I'm right here." So Predator decides just to go around. He's like, "Oh shit." Arnold's like, "Oh boy." And forgot about the log. So he looks up, he sees the log, and it's right above Predator. So he's like, "Yep, I'm just gonna trip the trap." He trips it, and the log comes down, and bam, hits him right on the head. Just lands right on the head, a full on log, right on the head. And it's, yeah, Dutch is extremely relieved. He's just probably gonna fall asleep right there. But this thing is so tough that it survived the hit, like barely survived the hit. But Predator is pretty much beaten at this point. He took the log to the head. I mean, when you get a log that's like that that weighs that much, that's high up, that comes down, lands straight on your head. I mean, if you're a human, you'd be dead. Which goes to show you that you'd have to do a lot to take a predator out like that. And he goes to take a huge rock and then smash its head off, but then he notices like bleeding everywhere and everything. It's like, yep, it's pretty much beaten at the point. So, yep. And the hell are you? And then the predator repeats those words. He's like, what the hell are you? So, and then predator knows he's lost at this point, so he's going to use this little gauntlet, and he's basically programming a self destruct device, which we find out in the second film is powerful enough to level 300 city blocks, which is ridiculous. And Arnold is lucky to survive this, by the way. And Arnold knows that something's like a bomb's gonna go off. And then the Predator's doing the laugh, like Billy's laugh that he recorded. So, and Dutch is running his ass off. And barely makes it. Like he shouldn't have made that. It was basically a nuclear bomb going off, and he shouldn't have made that, but he did. And by the way, Kevin Peter Hall, fun fact, Kevin Peter Hall actually plays a different character, like right there. Another military, he plays a military pilot right there. You know, get him in a brief scene without the Predator costume. But yeah, basically at this point, that was a nuclear bomb that went off, and Arnold was able to survive it. So, and it would have been cool to see a sequel with Dutch at some point in time, or Dutch making some sort of cameo, but it's something that we never got, unfortunately. But he made it, and he gets picked up by the chopper. Thank goodness. And that explosion actually was kind of like a, good thing it attracted the helicopter. And yeah, Dutch gets picked up by the helicopter, and the woman, Anna, just looks at him, and she kind of knows, even though he doesn't say anything. She kind of knows, and then we get a close up of Dutch, and he just kind of looks to his right, and yeah, and he's out of there. And the jobber takes him away, and that's pretty much the last that we see of Dutch. And then the credits basically start to roll after you start to see the cast, and then after that we fade to black, and then it goes into traditional credits. So um it it's kind of very interesting how we never had a Predator film surpass this one, even though Shane Black, who played one of the characters in this film, would end up directing one of them, and it was just not good. Unfortunately, we haven't seen a Predator film surpass this one, and hopefully at some point in time we will. I know that there's what was it? I forgot what it was called. It was, with the, like way in the past or something like that. And what was it, Prey or whatever it's called? I mean, that was good. And then, but again, the Predator creature was different. But again, it was from back in the day, so before Predators became very sophisticated with their technology. But the cool thing is that the audience, the movie going audience, loves the Predator character. So therefore, whenever a new Predator movie comes out, they're always willing to give it a chance. But whether or not it's good or bad just depends. So, and it's not always about the rating either. But granted, every Predator movie, in my opinion, should be rated R, simply because of the contents of the character and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, you could still make a hell of a Predator movie that's PG-13 if done right. But again, because of the Predator's nature, you don't really want to limit it. So, in my opinion, it has to be R. but you gotta do it right. You know, you still got to do it right. And an R rating is not a get out of jail free card in terms of quality of a Predator movie. But with that being said, that was Predator, 1987. Great film. Highly recommend that you watch it in case you haven't seen it. And it's always interesting coming back to a film that you haven't seen in a while and just kind of look at the things that the film offered. In my opinion, this was awesome, and it came out in such a great time. And minimal CG effects and just a lot of practical effects, and you had a good cast, and it was done right. So that's Predator, and it is the superior Predator film to all of them, and we'll see what they come up with in the future in terms of future Predator films. It's always going to be interesting in what direction they go and whether or not they do it right or wrong. So, but like I said, the audience loves the character, so hopefully they get it right sooner rather than later. And yeah, that's the most you can hope for when it comes to Predator. So anyway, yeah, I enjoyed doing this commentary. It was really kind of nice to go back and to watch this film again, and it was great. It was awesome. I loved it. So let me know, what do you guys think of the Predator? Which Predator film do you think was which Predator film did you like the most besides this one? And what would you like to see in a future Predator film? Do you want to see another Alien vs Predator movie, or do you want to see something like completely different, or maybe where they take the Prey series? I mean, what would you like to see? So anyway, that's going to conclude it. Thank you very much for listening and or watching, and I will catch you guys on the next one.